Hey people, I believe I figured out where this grapevine come from. It's not the native. You can see it's going to grow bunches of a lot of grapes. It's not the native grapes we have here. But I was cleaning out my shed and I found a 35-gallon drum of wine that I made about 25 years ago. And I was cleaning out the bottom of the drum. And I dumped out all these seeds from the bottom of that drum. And now I'm thinking when I made that, I must have dumped some seeds out because I found it come up in a couple other places in the yard. But I think I'm going to pick these seeds up and broadcast them all around the perimeter and see if this grape will take over where the native grapes are. You know, these native grapes, they come small and few, and it'd take a half a morning of picking to get enough to make 1 gallon of wine. But those grapes that I use, they come from my neighbor in Lyman, and I can go out and clip one bunch of them and make a 5-gallon drum of wine. They're huge. The huckleberries ripened up, and it brings in a lot of birds, and they harvest these in the morning. So by the time I get out here, there's not too many ripe ones. It looks like I might have a ripe blueberry here tomorrow. And this is a different, it looks more like a farm blueberry, just growing wild out here. But you know when they're ripe because you'll hear the mockingbirds move. And every time you get close, the mockingbird's gonna holler and let you know that you're at it. But here's some good ripe ones here. And the main reason I add this in my videos is because I don't know how to use the calendar on my phone. And I just want to keep up with the dates that they're ready. But I cut some of the trash back around this one. And I've been watering it. And so the berries are looking a little bigger and healthier this year. And so it's April 13th, about 3 days before a new moon. And I talked about this Jacob and Esau in that movie yesterday. It looks like this, about 13 minutes. And I'll leave the link up here. It always helps to watch my videos in order because it's a lot of stuff that you've never been told before. And I want to show you some of the words that mean red. You know, the Adam, this is the same spelling of the word that says, and the man, the Adam, the man, and it means red, and the same as Adam, they say it means red, and it's the red stew, and if you spell it here with a Adam, D-U-M, they still say it means red. You know, upon thus was called his name red. And so the trick is to fish through the black and the red and come out white. You know, Jacob was the black, was the astrology, and Esau was the medicine, was the red. And Jacob fooled Esau into to give him his from the Cree. And that's the same place from this word, you know, in the insert. And this is where your word a cartouche comes from, your birthright, you know. Whoever's the king, they gets that cartouche, their name in the cartouche. And that's where their insert. It's where the word court comes from. You know, this is the court here, and inside the court, you know, is the insert. You know, this is an insert, the official. And this was before come with the cartouche, but that's where the word cartouche comes from. It comes from the same word as court and insert and all that. But I was telling you, you know, that Esau was a shoe, you know, and it's the ancient word for a doctor, a shoe, and that's what all that foot washing was going on in the Bible. Back in the day, they had better sense than to bring all the sick people to one place. The doctor would go out and visit a shoe. When he got there, you wash his feet. And that was the red writings of medicine. And Jacob was the black writings of astrology. You'll see it down lower here, where it says, but said Jacob, sell as of this day your birthright to me. and insert Kali. Kali is black. A Kali Mata, the black one, the dark mother, destruction and death, alkali, soda ash, potash. The astrology, the calendar, your birthright, to insert Kali. In the Bible they would write all the birth dates. And so you'll see this Jacob, this mark on top of the Q will change up. But this is a VM, V-I-A-M, and it's like via, by the way of, and then from. And it actually reads as just a V-U-M, vom, which is German, Dutch for from. And from a re, I-O reads the E, a refab. From refab, make receive them, C-I-V-M, to receive them. From refab, to remake cartouche, and from refab, make receive them, to insert black, Kali. And then when Esau is talking, he's the red, and it's via, by the way, from, and rose. A rose enhance, it's like E-N-H-A-N-C-E, enhance. And it's actually the N is reading as the N, and it's the rose, we, W-E, and then the single N reads as a B or an enhance. And what does the red do? It enhances the rose. And from rose we enhance the red. And the I-E reading as the A, and all, A-W-L, all column, what will, and from easily in care, in cure, the doctor, Esau, the red. And that's why you seen that picture of Jesus yesterday. He's wearing the red cloak, and he told everybody, no, I wasn't trying to be Jesus, I was a doctor healing. And that's what that means. That's not Jesus, that's a shoe, Esau. From a rose we enhance in all. The I-E is an A, and an A-W-L. The all is reading from here. They try to say that this is a chisel. It's not a chisel. If you work with tools, you can tell that you can't use this for a chisel. It's banded here. It's just a scratch all. And another word for this, the fish, this is a Kali. This is the black. Depends on how you're reading it. You're reading the black or the red. You see in all the old languages, it's a doublet of Kala, of time, the black, the calendar. And in Indonesian, it's a doublet of Kala, time. And in their third etymology, it's a catfish, a rare synonym of lily, the catfish. And in their fourth etymology, it's a high official. And from a rose we enhance all. Call from what will willem easily incur. So in the next movie, I'm going to start up here at this last line, last couple lines here, where I stopped in that movie yesterday. And I'm going to read all this down and through the next one, but I'm going to just show you a couple more meanings of the colors here in these last couple lines. But you can see how there's a different mark on top of this Q here. And I believe that means read it as a hard Q, as a K. But you can see here, that it's still talking about what's left in here. In the car too. Left in. And so left, is what's left behind, what's not changed. And you don't have to change it, you just read it from the other direction, the left in. And in car 2, left in. And so you still leave the same letters in the cartouche, but you read them from another direction or another color, and it gives them a different meaning. You say here, in Viam, and by the way from reckon, this with a hard K. It's not refab anymore, but it's reckon. Reckoning is figuring time and distance, to reckon, math. And viam of reckon is a vow. In the OE, you put a vav between it. OE is a odal, it means a noble heir of the king, the son, odal. But you add a vav between a W, and is a vowel, the vowely, to swear to me, make a vow, the vowely, a sevum, whose volley, VOL, and the double vav here, the first one reading is a Y, a volley, to pass it back and forth, the volley, to pass it to me. It reads both ways. Read it when you're reading a word after the tack, it reads volley, reads both ways. And it's a trick, a trick in car 2. Leave in, the left in. The trick in the car 2, left in. His birthright to Jacob, to volley it back and forth. And you can see in these short words here how it changes. One way you read this, in viam and by way from rose. And one way you read these A words head on. And the words after the tack, you read backwards and forwards, you volley them. And so the vav and aleph read as a DE or a TE. And viam rose tell. And then when you're reading the A words head on, then you'll read this back whiff or whiffin. And so the OI reads as a vav, a U, and then the IO reads as a E. And so this changes to a WEF, a whiff, and that's when she named him a whiffin because he was sniffing his shoe, and the rose tell back a whiff, the whiffin, behind smelling that butt, the back whiffin, and eluding, the OI reading is a U, to eluding and not seeing the name, NAM, the name in, and then backwards and forwards. And so this M, when it's on the end, it looks like an S and it reads as a S. The name ends and DES, the AE, make the A ES when followed by the E, and dis and had a mead, MEAD, and had mead from. And so that's the red stew is actually a honey beer, a mead, a honey wine. As tell back within, eluding a name ends. This had a mead from is in a key, here, is easy, is a key. And the I, reading as a E and U. And is here up, and F, of, is here a fancy, and all, and nickin, NK, and then N. Nickin is to get a piece of ass, Nikon, victory. Your Nike's got that victory check, all nickin, all getting a piece of ass, all nickin. A crave, backwards and forwards. A cravens, what they wantin'. And that's what mead does. Mead is real good. You're trying to get a piece of ass, cook her up some red stew, cook up some of that mead, that honey wine. It's delicious and really potent. And all Nick and Cravums. And Cravums, some, and then the Vav, followed by the Aleph, comes a DE, and Diddum. All Nick and Cravums, some Diddum. So it reads a couple different ways. Nobody writes like this today. These people were total genius. And it comes from carving in stone. You try to get the most out of your work. It's not like taking a pencil and whipping this out. You're carving it in stone. You're trying to get a lot out of your words. These people are total genius. Nobody can write this day. Maybe the 1% can read it. And I believe I'm going to cut this off here before it gets too long. And I'll make this in 3 parts. And I'll read down to the end of this in the next video. And I'm just going to read it one way. I'm going to read it with reading the text, because it's way too confusing and takes too much time to go back and read it both ways. But let me give you one more little taste of it here, of this lentils. This is a whiffin. The I-O reading is a E and a W-E-F, and the whiff and vent, V-N-T-N, ventin. The smell coming out of the pot of stew. And the whiff, ventin, lows. Lows is those people in all the ancient language, L-O-S, is in Greek and all other languages, Chinese, all the ancient languages. Lows meant those people. And the whiff, ventin, lows will come. That's how to make them come. The H, C-H-M. You can see it here. It's a la-come. And it's not la-come, it's will come. And those will come. And when's it? The D and the T the same. It's playing. And when's it? Adds them. A-D-S-I-M. Adds them. And with ventin lows will come. When's it? At that time it adds them. What do you add to the pot, to make the smell? Usually it's onions is what brings them coming. Everybody can smell. You cook and you throw some onions on the grill and everybody will show up to your party, and add some. And vocal, the I-A reads as a U. The same as, and he said, and it actually reads as a vum, V-U-M, from, but, this is a vocal, and adds them, a vocal adds the words. Why is it with whilst? And whilst is when something shrinks away, the boat sailing away, going over the horizon, went his way to whilst, it shrinks back. And why is it with whilst as it shrinks away? Who buzzes? Who buzzes dat? D-E-T. Who buzzes that? And here sieve in Cree. And Cree, that's an indigenous people, are in the heart. You see that they got that dot above, a O, a core, and core, that's, in the heart, in center. And that's coming from some of the oldest Proto-Indo-European language, the cur, the core, the heart, ancient, the Greek, where your word cardio come from, the heart, the core, as what is of core, as what is of heart, have in core. And you can see it here, in core, into the IA reading as a U, and you see it, dia, mean through, or the cartouche, the heart. And this dia, this is actually the word where I figured out that the IA reads as a U. And you'll see often it'll be followed by a word that says to, and they'll say because of this, and it means due to. And that's where they get this despised Esau his birthright, and who Buzz is what in AE reading is a ES his have core, in his core, in his heart. When Esau treated as worthless the rights of the firstborn is equal is in, and equal is in. But no longer one is over the other. The equal is in. I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.